Alright, what's going on? I'm back with another replay on Total War Warhammer 3. And this time I'm playing as Tzeentch. And this is my first time playing Tzeentch in multiplayer. I'm matched up against a Grand Cathay player, and we're playing on Eye in the North. And so I don't know too much about Tzeentch's roster. I did look it over a couple times before playing this, just to get myself familiarized with how to balance my my unit choices. And I gotta say, during the picking phase, I was kind of getting a nice feel for. Slow this down. Holy hell! That's what happened.
Destroy these weaklings and deliver them to their fate.
Reload it. Daddy fucked up. Excuse me, buddy. Alright, what's going on? I'm back with another replay on Total War Warhammer 3. And this time I'm playing as Tzeentch. And I gotta say, this is my first time playing as Tzeentch in multiplayer. And it was kind of refreshing having a more balanced roster available to me. Or at least it felt that way after playing Nurgle for however long I did. So I'm coming in with two squads of Marauders of Tzeentch. One is here and one's on the back side of this hillside. This little mountain. One squad of Chaos Warriors with halberds, one squad of Marauders of Tzeentch, one squad of Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch, Forsaken, two squads of Chaos Furies, two squads of Pink Horrors, and my Lord is a Chaos Sorcerer, Lord of Tzeentch. I brought him because he's one of the higher armored lords on the roster. I didn't want him to get picked off by gunners, and I know that Grand Cathay has some decent firepower, especially for dealing with single targets. So for my opponent's roster, he has got 4 squads of Peasant Long Spearmen. He has got 4 squads of Jade Warriors, a Dragon-Blooded Lord, Shugengan, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Shugengan, and it looks like Yin is the lore that he's brought. I actually don't know anything about the magic of these guys, other than I've seen they have one of their lores has some big explosion thing, but I didn't really have a clue what to expect from his casting. Crane Gunners, Jade Lancers, 2 squads of Celestial Dragon Crossbows, and that should be it to start off. So going into this, I brought Furies, and I had Screamers also available in my roster, and I wanted those to deal with Furies to deal with shooting in the back, Screamers to deal with cavalry. I brought a pretty good mix of infantry, so I brought Chaos Warriors with halberds, Marauders, I've got Forsaken, and I think I might have some other types of infantry in my reserves. I can't remember. But I'm playing for points 1 and 2. My opponent's going for points 3 and 2. He's got his Lord up front, just taking a peek at what I've got. And yeah, I think I'm kind of mentioned this earlier, but just seeing the different roster that Tzeentch brings, it was kind of interesting seeing the flexibility of troop offerings compared to Nurgle, because it's like with Nurgle, I don't believe they have any troops that have anti-large as a specialty, and with Tzeentch you have a good couple of troops that have that. You know, I don't know, just a bigger roster in general, it seemed. And maybe it just feels that way because of the diversity of the units and the diversity of the stats on the units, but it should be fun. I think so far I like the theme of this faction. I like their looks. I like their unit variety. I like the barrier mechanic on their troops. They've got a little shield thing going on. But I'll have to play around with them more. So my opponent, he's coming downhill, going for point 2, just about to open up to the point where We can start capturing objectives. Again, I'm sitting on point 1, he's sitting on point 3. And there's just going to be a big infantry fight down here. I've got Marauders coming downhill. I got Chaos Warriors coming downhill. I did bring somewhat shielded troops, so the Marauders and the Chaos Warriors, of course, having bronze and silver shields respectively. And you can see this, even with the shields and the barrier, these guys are getting chewed apart. My opponent has pretty good crossbowmen, so I think this is the higher tier crossbowmen that Grand Cathay can bring. And so these guys are, you know, just about done already. But I'm coming downhill as well. I've got Forsaken coming to reinforce. I got Pink Horrors at the top of this ramp. They are taking some shots from the crossbows. I believe it might be the crane gunners actually shooting at them. Chaos Warriors locked in with the Jade Warriors. My Marauders are already getting chased off. I've got Forsaken going to match up with their Peasant Long Spear, so that'll be a winning fight for me. Chaos Warriors is looking badass, especially with Tzeentch variant, in my opinion. Jade Warriors are pretty awesome as well. These nice heavily armored infantry. And then here I've got a swarm of flying units. So what I was looking to do was get Chaos Furies on top of the Celestial Crossbows, shut down the high power shooting, get Screamers to deal with the cavalry that they have back there. And so you can see I got 2 squads of crossbows and some gunners shut down. Again, 2 squads of Screamers, so I can deal with these Jade Lancers and these Jade Lancers. And if they get the spears in there, then that's going to be a problem. But right now he's not really paying attention to that. Marauder Spearman on the flank, just sitting here in case he tries to do a cavalry charge around and get to my shooting on the top of this ramp. Forsaken coming downhill to get mixed in with these Jade Warriors. These Marauders got chased off and they're going to eventually get back in the mix. I got my Lord coming downhill. These Peasant Spearmen are getting taken care of by the Forsaken. And my Lord's just going to come in here and just contribute to this battle. He doesn't have necessarily great amount of armor piercing to deal with these guys, but he'll contribute a little bit. He shouldn't be too susceptible to the arrow fire coming down because he's mixed into my group of Chaos Warriors. You can see the crossbowmen, my opponent using the horsemen, have really been able to free them back up. He's got Jade Lancers sitting on top of these crossbows, Peasants sitting on top of these guys, and you can just tell by that he charged them in and dealt with the Furies. My Screamers are the only ones left, and unfortunately I mismicroed them, and they got tied up in these Ancestral Warriors and these Peasant Long Spearmen, which are both going to be doing anti-large, which the Screamers do not like. Now, luckily, I did get one of the squads of Screamers onto his Dragon-Blooded Lord, so I got some damage there. These Peasants got chased off, so the Forsaken are going to come and help in the melee. Marauder's still sitting back on that point. I had some Halberds over here, but I wanted to bring them back around because I didn't want them to get caught out by any kind of crossbow fire or infantry reinforcements that they weren't going to deal well with. Weird Spawn coming in. Pink Horrors kind of moved down a little bit, progressed down the hill a little bit, and they're shooting into the Celestial Crossbowmen. And my Marauders are kind of just still sitting over here. My opponent's got Peasants and Jade Warriors. He's coming forward with the Jade Warriors. Brought in some more Furies to try to get back on top of those Crossbowmen. Now, one thing that I didn't realize while this match was going on was how much armor the Celestial Crossbowmen did. And you can see that the squads that I got on top of, I only took about a third of their health, maybe not even, between the 2 of them. And I'd say part of that is just that these Furies, although they have good melee attack, they do not have armor piercing. And so unfortunately that is just something that I didn't recognize, and maybe I could have dove on better targets with them. But regardless, shutting down shooting in general is good, especially when it's a high value unit like the Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen. They're getting some shots on a point 2. The good thing is that I'm ahead. Actually, I'm not ahead in points, which I'm not sure how. I guess he had this in the beginning. It took me some time to take it over from him, but I have the double cap. I'll be catching up to him in victory points here. Got my Lord and some troops sitting on this point, keeping capture weight on it. 2 squads of Pink Horrors. He does have his Regiment of Renowned Celestial Dragon Guard. The Doom Dragons coming this way. So these guys are anti-large, armor piercing, good armor, bronze shield. My Forsaken and my Chaos Warriors are kind of getting dealt away with up here. You know, just the Jade Lancers charging downhill at these guys as they're trying to push up against these crossbowmen. It's not great. They actually have decent, their melee stats are not as bad as I thought they would have been as crossbowmen, but I guess they're a higher tier unit, so shouldn't be too surprised. Jade Warriors locked in with some Marauders with spears and some standard Marauders. So just a little typical infantry battle, slow grinding. No one's dealing a ton of damage here. He's getting some Jade Lancers in the back, and that's part of the problem. I probably could have. I'm not sure if I caught it on camera, but just didn't comment on it. But these Marauders with spears, I did not want them to get locked in with the Jade Warriors, but he got the jump on me, and I wasn't paying good attention to them. I should have pulled them back and had some other type of unit and reinforcement to deal with these Jade Warriors, because now that these Jade Lancers are able to get down and charge downhill at me, contribute to this kind of this victory point battle. You know, now they're dealing with these pink horrors. If I had my spears back in reserve, I could have stopped that. But that's what happened. He's got the charge on top of my pink horrors. Luckily, I bring in some screamers here and get some anti-large damage charging in here. So that's favorable for me, although he's dealing with my shooting, and that's not great. But again, anti-large on those screamers, so that's great. Got some magic coming down here. What is this? What is this spell? It's called. Let's take a look. The Tzeentch's Firestorm, right? So decent area of effect damage. Getting that off on some regiments of renowned troops is nice. He has got his Longbow Riders coming in, so this is a regiments of renown squad. So he's got double regiments of renown on my lord. I probably should have backed out here, seeing that being the case, especially since both of these are heavily armored troops, or fairly heavily armored troops, and this guy is not doing armor piercing damage. You know, probably getting these Chaos Warriors with halberds on top of this blob would have been better than charging the Jade Lancers in the back. But I've got the weird spawn coming, kind of floating around in the background. I don't want them to jump in here because, mostly because of the Celestial Dragon Guard having the anti-large. Didn't want them getting mixed up there. But Marauders coming downhill to support. You can see there's a lot of troops getting mixed in here. And he's still got his crossbows sitting up there securely on top of this ramp, so that's not good for me. If I had equivalent shooting, or you know, based around this area, that would be nice. In fact, I wonder if I can use those pointers on here. I don't see it. I think there's some way that you can draw markers on the map, I think, but I'm not sure how to do that during a replay. But regardless, got some pinks shooting at the Jade Warriors over here. My Screamers came in to support with the Furies as well, to support these Marauder Spears, and are chasing off the Jade Warriors and the Peasant Long Spearmen. More Furies coming over here to deal with the Crossmen and try to shut them down, but you can see he's sitting these Jade Warriors, or these Jade Lancers on top of them just to keep supporting them. Screamers fighting Jade Lancers, that's a trait I like. And still a big blob fight coming in here. Got some more Marauders coming downhill to support. So that's good. These guys were braced to take the charge. When they have charge defense against all, or charge reflection. It's an interesting mechanic. I don't really know how that works statistically, but I think what it does is it makes units take some damage when they get a charge off on those guys. Just a huge blob here. My lord is still stuck in here. Peasant Long Spearmen joining as well. Got my Weird Spawn chasing off these Jade Warriors. They got Lancers sitting at the top of the ramp, I guess, waiting to get in the mix. But it was probably right of him to not charge in here, because you don't want to have too many troops clumped, especially, and that's like good timing, especially when I still have this AoE spell to cast. So did a little bit of damage there. A little more HP taken off of those Celestial Dragon Guard and Longbow Riders. Fury still just throwing them back and jumping on top of those crossmen as I can. These pink horrors are going to get charged by the Jade Lancers, which isn't great, but at least I've got some Screamers coming with a little bit of experience on them to support. So they'll get in there and try to save these guys. And at this point, he's got points 1 and 2. I actually did not notice that he came over here and captured this. He's got a full squad of Peasant Horsemen and another pretty beaten down squad of Peasant Horsemen. But that was a good play on his part, sending some more mobile troops around and grabbing victory points when he noticed I didn't have anything over there. You may have noticed earlier in the match I had some Marauders sitting on this, kind of right around here, trying to block off anyone from getting in there, but all the action was coming around point 2 and somewhat around this area between 2 and 3, so I ended up bringing those Marauders, I think, over this way and downhill into the combat. And ideally, I replaced those guys, but I didn't, and you can see he grabbed that point because of that. My Lord is starting to get beat down, just in continuous combat. He's exhausted. He's been fighting. These guys are exhausted too, but now he's got his Lord coming in just off the bottom of the screen, and he's going to get a charge off. I'm not sure. Does he hit my Lord? Looks like he might not have hit him with the charge, but couldn't quite tell there. So I'm pushing his troops away. The Screamers are dealing with the cavalry fairly well, and just being good reinforcements for these pink horrors. And now I'm starting to get some capture weight on top of this point. These Jade Lancers are going to get chased off, and you can see it's starting to turn in my favor. His healthy squad of peasant horsemen are coming off of point 1. I guess he's going to probably be coming downhill and supporting on point 2. And now he's starting to get capture weight on here because he's got Jade Warriors, he's got peasant long spears, he's still got his long riders with his Lord, fighting my Lord off. I'm like clicking, trying to get my Lord out of there. I probably should have been going in this direction, but I would have just got mobbed by the horses anyways. So my Lord gets dealt away with down in that melee, and just bad micro on my part. I probably could have or should have pulled him out earlier and waited until he had more support to kind of be like deep into this point like that. There's really a lot of finer movements that you can make with your Lord, especially throughout the match, that can be beneficial, because once your Lord's gone, you get a big leadership debuff, and that can really, you don't get the same kind of value out of your troops as you used to. So you can see the value trading is not horrible. I'm behind by about 2,000, which isn't great, but it could be a lot worse. But he also has supplies, which is like somewhat proportional to the lead. He's got some more troops on the field than me. Furies floating around. Screamers fighting against peasant horsemen and Jade Lancers, and that's what I like to see. Anti-large fighting against large troops. So that's not so bad. But point 2 is theirs, point 3 is still theirs. I wasn't able to kind of wrestle it from him, even though my pink horrors were almost there to take it. He's still sitting on point 1, and I guess I still might not have noticed this. I guess I brought these guys in at this point and had these Forsaken trying to run in and chase them off. I was trying to find a troop that was not expensive but that had some speed on it, because as you can see, the victory points are starting to go in his favor. But the blob fight down here, Marauders are not going to be able to punch through spear wall with a Lord and with Jade Warriors. These guys have really good holding power. 120 models with 37 melee defense, 90 armor, and shield. That maybe they just have 80 armor. I wonder what happened from that. Okay, so they're not moving for X amount of time. They get more armor. So that's interesting. I've never seen that mechanic before. Screamers getting chased off. Unfortunately they weren't able to win that engagement. Looks like my opponent brought in some high-ranking Jade Lancers, and just were able to push them off. My Weird Spawn are doing pretty good. They've probably got a lot of kills throughout this match. 223, actually, that's a pretty good number. I guess it depends on the value of the kills, but that's nice. Chaos Furies chasing off some peasant long spearmen, but victory points are just getting out of hand. And although I am taking back point 1, I looked at the point counter and I realized that the only way I could win there was to get a triple cap. No way that was going to happen with the amount of troops that he had on point 2 and the distance that I would have had to close to get more reinforcements over to point 3. So I threw in the towel there. Something I'm trying to do a little more intentionally, keeping on the victory points, and if it's out of hand, just throw in the towel, because I'm not really going to get too much more learning experience out of the match at that point, and it's better to just move on and figure out what I did wrong and what I can improve on the next time. So good game to my opponent. Take a quick look at the gold value. So my Lord did decent. He didn't cost too much, so decent. Chaos Warriors with halberds got smashed. Forsaken got smashed. Chaos Warriors got smashed. These guys did pretty good. Not good there. Pretty good value on the Furies. Not great on the Spearmen or the Standard Marauders. Weird Spawn did alright. Probably not their value's worth. Screamers did alright. pretty good actually. I think I might have brought each of them in as reinforcements one time, so they made their money's worth. I think they're 700, so about 200 more than their value. So yeah, mostly the Screamers and the Furies did pretty good. Outside of that, I could have probably brought in some different troops. You know, looking at their unit types, I'm thinking that against Cathay, I want to bring more armor-piercing troops. These Jade Warriors I was just not able to deal with my infantry, and then they were just sitting there grinding against a high defense, high armor troop, getting shot up by crossbows and whatnot. So for my opponent, not too much value on his Lord, but he kept his Lord alive, which counts for something. And it seemed like the Lord was just playing a support role. Pretty big value on the crossbows. Crane Gunners didn't do too much, but I think this was a squad that I really jumped on with the 2 Screamers and the Furies, so naturally these guys aren't going to get as much value as the ones that he freed up sooner. These Jade Lancers did alright. I don't know how much they cost. I really don't know much about the cost value, but it seems that his infantry did decent, especially given they slowed me down, so his crossbows could get some shooting in. Long Marauders did pretty good, especially since they were still at half health. Celestial Dragon Guard did decent. Maybe I shouldn't say decent because it's not a lot of value, but they did tie up my Lord for a long time. Now that was kind of my fault with how I was managing him, but good value on the Lancers, decent value on the Peasant Horsemen. So yeah, good game to my opponent, good learning experience for me. Again, just each match for me I feel like is all about learning the different matchups, learning how to use my roster against the other factions, and I know over time I'll kind of get more familiar with what the spread of choices each faction has. So I'll know, you know, do I need more armor piercing in melee infantry? Do I need more units that can dive the back line? Do I need something that's going to be able to deal with single entity monsters or something like that? And yeah, that's the game. So again, good play to my opponent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next replay.